What drives you into overwhelm? What drives you into that feeling of either freeze or despair or confusion? So many of us are living in overwhelm these days. And I thought about it this morning as I was allowing what was next to emerge for these daily whispers to come through. And that word overwhelm dropped. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I think this is going to take me more than one little whisper to get through, but let's start with what drives you into overwhelm. I was thinking about it myself, and I came up with a couple of things that drive me into that sense of overwhelm. And I think tomorrow we'll break it down. We'll break down what overwhelm actually feels like so that we can become more aware of it. But for today, let's keep it super simple. The things that drive me into a sense of overwhelm are too much in my mind, carrying too many thoughts in my mind at one time. I think that's the biggest thing for me. And I look at it like a whiteboard, right? Or a blackboard if you're my age, that has all this information, equations, homework assignments, definitions on the board, so much on the board that you just can't see the space beneath it. And that's how I feel sometimes in my mind, in my head, right? My head feels clogged and jam-packed. I call it the busy mind in my book. The busy mind, there's a bunch of different ways to look at the busy mind, so check out the book On the Verge if you want to know more. But clutter in my mind, I think, is the number one. And the second one is clutter on my schedule. When I look at my schedule, my daily schedule in the morning, if I have way too many meetings or not enough white space, I did this little series on white space a few years ago that really was popular. I'm going to put the links in the show notes. I encourage you to check those out as well. But white space, not enough white space on my schedule. When my day looks jam-packed with calls and meetings, it drives me into overwhelm. The next one is, it's interesting because I don't have a house anymore, but even in my little living spaces, right? So right now I'm in this little 700 square foot, I think it's less actually, little place. It's like a house behind another house. But clutter in my space, clutter in my house, when things are not put together, organized, when the counters are cluttered, the sink is cluttered, the bedroom's cluttered, any of it creates a little bit of overwhelm in me. I need to have the space clear. I'm a real minimalist in that way. And then the fourth thing that drives me into overwhelm is when my body doesn't feel clean and clear and settled. So, and that is just physiological. I talk about it all the time, how our biology drives our psychology. How we feel physically really dictates how we feel and think mentally. So if our bodies are in disharmony or dysbiosis, our mind is not going to feel right. And most people are walking around in their everyday lives not realizing how much their body is impacting their mind, is impacting their life, which is one of the reasons why I am so absolutely passionate about sharing gut-brain health, because it starts there. It's step one, actually. Get your gut-brain health right. Take a look at the show notes for more on that. So those are the four things that drive me into overwhelm. And I just want to encourage you to look at your own life. Now, I talked about it in very simple terms. Too many thoughts in my head, too much clutter in my house, no white space on my schedule, and imbalance in my body. There's a more technical way of describing overwhelm as well, and it's this term VUCA, V-U-C-A, VUCA. VUCA is used in the business world all the time, but it came out of the military many years ago. I think it was the SEALs that perhaps coined it first. I'm not sure. But VUCA is the acronym for this sense of overwhelm that can come about when there is vulnerability, right? When we are vulnerable to disaster, right? Where we are vulnerable to financial collapse, all the things, vulnerable to pandemics and viruses, right? So vulnerability. The U stands for uncertainty, right? When there's so many unknowns out there, it can cause a lot of overwhelm. Now, I'm not going to go into the whole business sense or the military sense of this. I'm talking to you. When you feel vulnerable, when there's uncertainty in your life, which there always is, by the way. C is complexity, when things are just so complicated that your mind can't figure it out. Oftentimes, if I wake up in the middle of the night, my mind is trying to figure things out, right? It's trying to work through the program of complexity. And then ambiguity, which is when things are just not clear. They're not clear. Somebody's not being clear with you. A situation, a project, a child is not clear. So these are some things to think about. I'm going to talk a lot more about it this week, I think, because I think we're all in overwhelm in some capacity, and becoming aware is the first step in being able to really interrupt the massive physiological and mental and emotional shifts that happen when we go into freeze mode, when we go into overwhelm. So let's nail it before it gets too big in our lives. What drives you into overwhelm? Think about that today, and we'll continue this tomorrow. Be sure to take a look at the show notes. I'm going to take the time to put a bunch of links to past episodes that I've talked about this. And also there is my book on the verge and my gut-brain protocols, step 1 to shifting into optimal balance, harmony, clarity, acuity, flexibility, stability. All those components of mental fitness that I so believe in. And when we get our gut-brain health right, it shifts everything into a next level of health and wellness and performance. Awesome. That's it for today. Go out there, have a wonderful day. Go shine. Shine your light brightly, more brightly than ever. Go for it.